Hello everyone, today is August the 3rd and I have read my first book of the month, which is Smoke by Dan Veta. This book deals with a world in which when you sin, it will show through smoke because you will start smoking. Obviously you don't want to smoke, you don't want to sin, but it's very visible when you do so in this world. I was very eager to read this book. I will say now, having read it, it didn't quite live up to my expectations. The beginning was very good because it described this world and the characters and I liked it, but it didn't keep up this interest throughout the story, and towards the end I was kind of fading out of it. The story didn't really interest me anymore, which is a shame. So while it was a good concept, it didn't quite live up to my expectations. That's why I gave it 3 stars, but I still do recommend it because it is quite an interesting story and I genuinely liked it. I just didn't love it as much as I was hoping for. I just took a nap, so I don't look too good. Anyway, I have now finished The Fisherman by Obioma on my Kindle, and this is a book that was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize last year, I think. I wasn't really finding myself reading. I read maybe a chapter and then I put it down for some hours and then I read the next chapter. So it wasn't a book I was eager to read, but once I read it, I loved it. It deals with these 4, maybe 5, 6 brothers who live in Nigeria, and it basically deals with their childhood, how they are growing up in the course of basically 1 year. You don't really know how it's going to turn out, but it is going to take a dramatic turn, which I appreciated a lot. So all in all, I rated this book 4 stars. I just came home to this, so let's figure out what's inside. I am pretty sure I know what it is and I'm super excited. Voila! Harry Potter and the Cursed Child with this bookmark. So now I just need to finish the book I'm currently reading and then I will probably be picking up this one just because I can't wait. So some weeks ago I received an email from a publisher who wanted for me to send a book and then review it. This book sounded interesting and it sounded like something I would like to read, so I accepted. And I received it some days ago and I'm now sitting here having finished it, and I can tell you it was the best surprise of this year so far. So let me show you the book. This is what I'm talking about. BS Incorporated by Jennifer Rock and Michael Voss. Basically, I would recommend that you head over to my Goodreads account and read my full review of this book, because there's no way I'm going to be able to tell you everything in this vlog. I don't want for it to be too long. But basically this book deals with working inside a very large company that is going bankrupt. The 2 authors who wrote it, they lived and breathed this world themselves before writing this novel. There's a dog barking outside. Anyway, there are just so many aspects of this novel that I very much appreciated. So in the end I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely recommend that you check it out and hopefully read it if it sounds interesting to you. Can you see Sirius in the background? I have now finished Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So yeah, interesting. Basically, I was not the biggest fan of this play, and I do get that the expectations for this continuation of Harry Potter have been really high. And I also get that this is a different format. It's just different to read a Harry Potter story, which is not a novel. But I do love to read screenplays, and my expectations for this book weren't really that high. I was trying to not have any expectations at all, actually. So that's not the problem. My problem with this screenplay was that it didn't feel like Harry Potter to me, meaning that I could sense that it wasn't J.K. Rowling who sat down and wrote this play. She did come up with the original idea, but she didn't write the play, and you could sense that from the plot to the characters to the way things develop. I was not the biggest fan. I did end up giving it 2 out of 5 stars because I do believe that this is, or it must be, an amazing play. it must play out beautifully on stage, and I could sense that from reading it. So I do recognize that, but other than that, I found so many faults with this play, so that's why I ended up giving it 2 stars. Hi Zeus! Hi! I have now read a very pretty book, and that is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. Now this is another one of those books that I have read recently, which turned out to really surprise me, because I thought that this was going to be a little bit hard to get through. I thought that the language would be dense. I had a feeling like it would be about magical realism and it would be hard to follow. But it was really good. It was so surprising, and I ended up really loving it. Basically, the language is not at all complicated. It was very easy to read, and it follows different characters in England who live in Essex and who have discovered some kind of mysterious things going on in the lake. So they believe it is a serpent, and obviously that scares the crap out of everyone and people start behaving weirdly. This book has a lot of ambience to it, and that's what I love the most about it. The fact that you could feel the marsh mud under your own feet, and you could sense the wind in the trees and the nature. Everything about the nature was beautifully described. So in the end, I really loved how this book turned out, and I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm back now with another book that I have read, and that is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson, another one of those Persephone classics. And this is a very short book, so I read it fairly quickly, which was a good thing because I haven't had much time to read recently. Basically, it deals with a woman who is in her middle age and who has so far lived a pretty innocent life. She hasn't really experienced that much, and she knows that, but that's her life. However, in this book, she gets to go on quite an adventure for one day. Things happen to her which have never happened to her before. We get to follow her during 24 hours, and we also get to know her, the woman she was before and the woman she is now during this day. So basically, this book is about how you can have different sides to yourself, how you can know who you are and live the life you live, but still change it up, because we all have that side inside of us where we are a little bit different from what we are used to, I think. So I liked that concept. I did feel like the story took it a little bit to the extremes at points. So while it was very entertaining, it was a little bit exaggerated at places. So in the end, I gave this short book 3 out of 5 stars. It is now August the 22nd, and I have finished this novel quite quickly. I started reading it, I think, Thursday last week, and now it's Monday, and I've actually read it just because Robin Hobb's books read very easily. That's my cat's Zeus. So basically, this is the first book in her 3rd series in this entire world that she has created. It is fantasy, and since it is in the middle of a series, I can't really tell you too much, hello Zeus, other than I liked it. I really like Robin Hobb's stories. They are entertaining, they are easily read, and it is just good fantasy. Even for me, who doesn't read a lot of fantasy, I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I am excited to continue on with this series sometime this autumn. It is now September the 1st, and I need to wrap up this reading blog and tell you about the last 2 books that I have been reading in August. The past week has been really hectic, and yeah, I haven't been reading a lot, but I did manage to finish this one, which is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Maybe you've heard of it. It's pretty popular. It won the Man Booker International Prize this year. So this is about a woman who all of a sudden turns vegetarian, and it basically ruins her family, which sounds pretty brutal, and it is pretty brutal. I did like some of it. I disliked other parts of it. The story took some twists and turns that I didn't see coming, and I didn't really feel like they made absolutely sense. So in the end, I enjoyed this read and I gave it 3 stars. And the other book I read, I actually DNF'd and that is 0K by Dan Veta. I started reading it yesterday. I got about 100 pages into it and I just wasn't having it. Basically, this is a very fragmented way of telling a story. It is a futuristic story in which you can freeze down your bodies in order to preserve your body and be able to live longer later. I thought that the concept sounded refreshing, it sounded interesting, but the way this is executed is just not up my alley. I think this book is more for people who like very fragmented writing. It doesn't have to be in order, things can be in chaos. It certainly is in this book. I will get more into my feelings on it in a book review because it is one of those books that came out in Denmark recently, so look out for that review. But basically, I actually did give it 1 star because what I read so far I just did not like at all. And that is it for this August reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. We will now begin our autumn season, which I love autumn. So my next reading vlog will be up in about a month, and until then, happy reading.